Of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, 6 have been completely erased from existence, destroyed by earthquakes, consumed by fire, torn apart by human hands. Only 1 remains standing. And here's what's going to bother you for the rest of this video. We're not entirely sure how they built it. Even today, with all our technology, all our engineering knowledge, all our supercomputers and machinery, we still argue about it. But in 2007, humanity voted on 7 new wonders of the world, modern monuments, testaments to what we've achieved in the centuries since. So tonight, we're doing something nobody's ever done before. We're putting them head to head, ancient versus new, round by round, wonder versus wonder. And by the end, you'll have the answer to a question that's haunted historians for centuries. Were we smarter then, or are we smarter now? The answer is not what you think. Let's begin. The concept of the 7 ancient wonders originated around 225 BCE, when ancient Greek travelers began compiling lists of the most remarkable structures in the known world. Think about that for a moment. Over 2,000 years ago, tourists were doing exactly what we do today. They were making lists, ranking things, arguing about which achievement was more impressive than the other. Human nature hasn't changed at all. But here's what you need to understand before we begin this showdown. The ancient wonders weren't chosen because they were the biggest. They weren't chosen because they were the oldest. They were chosen because they represented the impossible. Each one was a middle finger to the limitations of the era, a declaration that said, the rules don't apply to us. The new wonders, selected through a global vote in 2007 with over 100 million participants, carry that same spirit. But they had to meet a different criteria. They had to have survived. They had to still be standing as proof that greatness can endure. So here's how this is going to work. I've paired each ancient wonder with a new wonder based on their purpose, their ambition, and their impossibility. 7 rounds, 7 battles, and at the end, one final verdict that will change how you see human achievement forever. But before I reveal that verdict, I need to tell you something important about the very first wonder we're about to discuss. Something that archaeologists discovered just 11 years ago. Something that suggests the ancient wonder we're about to discuss might never have existed at all. Round 1. The Phantom Gardens versus the Hidden City. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon versus Machu Picchu. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are the most mysterious of all ancient wonders, and I chose to start here for a very specific reason, because there's a problem. Every other ancient wonder has archaeological evidence, fragments, foundations, written records from multiple sources that corroborate each other. The Hanging Gardens, nothing. Not a single Babylonian text mentions them. No archaeological excavation has ever found their foundation. No contemporary account from someone who actually saw them has ever been discovered. For centuries, historians described lush terraces rising hundreds of feet into the air, exotic plants from across the ancient world cascading down like green waterfalls, a complex irrigation system that pumped water from the Euphrates River to the highest levels, an engineering impossibility for the time. The legend says King Nebuchadnezzar II built them around 600 BCE for his wife, Amytis, who missed the green hills of her homeland. A romantic story, but possibly a complete fabrication. In 2013, researcher Stephanie Daly proposed something radical. The gardens existed, but not in Babylon. They were actually built in Nineveh, over 300 miles to the north, by the Assyrian king Sennacherib. Ancient writers simply got the location wrong. for over 2,000 years. We may have been looking in the wrong place this entire time. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the new wonder we're comparing it to, Machu Picchu, it has the opposite problem. Machu Picchu wasn't lost because no one wrote about it. It was lost because the people who built it deliberately hid it. Constructed in the 15th century by the Inca Empire, this city sits nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, nestled between two mountain peaks in Peru. The Spanish conquistadors, who systematically destroyed Incan civilization, never found it. For 400 years, it remained hidden from the outside world. American historian Hiram Bingham stumbled upon it in 1911, led there by a local farmer who casually mentioned there were some old ruins up the mountain. Some old ruins. What he found was an entire city, over 150 buildings, temples, residences, agricultural terraces carved into nearly vertical cliff faces, a water system so sophisticated that it still functions today. And here's the detail that keeps archaeologists up at night. The stones are fitted together so precisely that you cannot slide a piece of paper between them. No mortar was used, just pure precision cutting. With bronze tools. By hand. So who wins this round? The gardens represent ambition so grand that it might have been exaggerated into mythology. We're not even sure they were real. But Machu Picchu? It's very real. You can walk through it today, touch the same stones the Incas touched, and marvel at engineering that modern builders still struggle to explain. Round 1 winner, Machu Picchu. New wonders lead 1-0. But don't get comfortable with that score, because the next round features something the new wonders cannot compete with. The single most impossible structure ever built by human hands. Round 2. The impossible tomb versus the impossible wall. The Great Pyramid of Giza versus the Great Wall of China. This is the only ancient wonder still standing, and honestly, it shouldn't be. The Great Pyramid was built around 2560 BCE. That's over 4,500 years ago. It remained the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years, a record that will never be broken. Here are the numbers, and I want you to really sit with these. Height, 481 feet. That's a 40-story building. Weight, approximately 6 million tons. Number of stone blocks, over 2.3 million. Average weight per block, 2.5 tons. Some blocks weigh over 80 tons. Construction time, according to historians, approximately 20 years. Now let's do some math that's going to break your brain. If the pyramid was built in 20 years, that means workers had to quarry, transport, shape, and place one block every 2.5 minutes. Every single day for 2 decades. Without wheels, without iron tools, without modern machinery of any kind. How? We don't fully know. That's not conspiracy. That's the honest answer mainstream Egyptologists give. We have theories, ramps, counterweights, massive labor forces, but no theory perfectly explains how this was accomplished with Bronze Age technology. Now let's look at its competitor, the Great Wall of China. Here's a number that dwarfs even the pyramid: 13,171 miles. That's the total length of all the walls, trenches, and natural barriers that make up the Great Wall system. It would stretch from New York to Los Angeles more than 4 times. Construction began as early as the 7th century BCE and continued for over 2,000 years across multiple dynasties. It is the largest construction project ever undertaken by humans. And here's the dark detail that history often glosses over. As many as 1 million workers may have died during its construction. Their bodies, according to some accounts, were buried within the wall itself. It's not just a wall, it's a mass grave stretching across a continent. So how do you compare these two? The pyramid is a concentrated explosion of genius, an impossible achievement compressed into a single structure. The wall is genius spread across millennia, proof that human determination can reshape geography itself. But here's what decides this round for me. The Great Wall, for all its magnificence, failed at its primary purpose. Invaders breached it multiple times throughout history. The Mongols, the Manchus. It was a symbol of power, but not an effective defense. The Great Pyramid, however, succeeded completely. It was built to preserve the body and legacy of Pharaoh Khufu for eternity, and 4,500 years later, we're still talking about him. Round 2 winner, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We are tied 1-1. But this next matchup is where things get truly strange, because I'm about to show you 2 structures that should not exist in their time periods, and one of them might have been built using lost technology.
Round 3. The God of Light versus the God of Stone. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was built around 280 BCE on the island of Pharos, just off the coast of Alexandria, Egypt. Its height, between 330 and 450 feet tall, making it one of the tallest structures in the ancient world. At its peak was a mirror, some accounts say bronze, others say polished metal, that could reflect sunlight during the day and firelight at night. Ships could see its beacon from over 35 miles away. This was essentially ancient GPS, a navigation system for the entire Mediterranean Sea. But here's the part that doesn't make sense. Ancient writers claimed the mirror could be used as a weapon, that it could concentrate sunlight and set enemy ships on fire from a distance. For centuries, historians dismissed this as myth. Then, in the 20th century, engineers actually tested whether this was possible, using period-appropriate materials and methods. And the terrifying answer? It might have worked. The lighthouse stood for over 1,500 years before a series of earthquakes finally toppled it in the 14th century. Its ruins still lie beneath Alexandria's harbor. Its modern counterpart stands atop Corcovado Mountain in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Christ the Redeemer. At 98 feet tall, with arms stretching 92 feet wide, it's actually smaller than many statues in the world. It's not the tallest, it's not the oldest, it's not made of the most precious materials. So why is it a new wonder? Because of what it took to build it there. The statue was constructed between 1922 and 1931 at the peak of a 2,300-foot mountain. Every piece had to be carried up through thick forest in brutal conditions. Workers described clouds passing through the construction site. They were literally building inside the sky. The statue is made of reinforced concrete and soapstone, designed to withstand 150-mile-per-hour winds and constant lightning strikes. It gets struck by lightning an average of 6 times per year, and it's still standing. But here's what connects these 2 wonders in a way you might not expect. Both were built as beacons. The lighthouse guided ships safely to harbor. Christ the Redeemer was designed to be visible from anywhere in Rio, a spiritual beacon visible to millions. Both represent humanity's desire to create light in the darkness. But the lighthouse served a practical purpose and may have functioned as a weapon of war. It was engineering that doubled as strategy. Christ the Redeemer is pure symbol, beautiful, inspiring, but functionally, just a statue. Round 3 winner, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Ancient wonders lead 2-1. Now we enter the middle portion of our showdown, and this is where I need to tell you something I've been holding back. One of the new wonders was almost disqualified from the list entirely, and the reason why reveals a dark truth about how we choose to remember the past.
Round 4. Death Made Beautiful. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus versus the Taj Mahal. Around 350 BCE, Queen Artemisia II built a tomb for her husband, Mausolus, ruler of Caria. Her grief was so profound that, according to ancient sources, she mixed his ashes into her drinking water, consuming a small amount every day until she died. The tomb she built was so magnificent that it gave us a word we still use today: mausoleum. It stood approximately 148 feet tall, combining Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian architectural styles into something the ancient world had never seen. 4 sculptors, each famous in their own right, worked on different sides of the structure. Earthquakes destroyed it between the 12th and 15th centuries, but fragments survived. You can see pieces of the original sculptures in the British Museum today. Now, look at the Taj Mahal. Built between 1632 and 1653 in Agra, India, by Emperor Shah Jahan for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died giving birth to their 14th child. The symmetry is almost supernatural. Every element on the left is perfectly mirrored on the right. The 4 minarets actually lean slightly outward, so that if an earthquake ever toppled them, they'd fall away from the main tomb, protecting it. The white marble changes color throughout the day: pinkish in the morning, white at noon, golden in moonlight. Over 20,000 workers, 1,000 elephants to transport materials, precious stones imported from China, Tibet, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. And here's the dark rumor that historians still debate. Shah Jahan may have ordered the hands of the master craftsmen cut off after completion, ensuring they could never build anything to rival it. There's no solid evidence for this, but the fact that the story persists tells you something about how the Taj Mahal affects people. It's so beautiful that we assume suffering must have been involved. But here's the controversy I mentioned earlier. When the new 7 wonders were being selected in 2007, the Taj Mahal almost wasn't included. Some argued it was too recent, built less than 400 years ago. Others argued that the new wonders should focus on structures that demonstrate engineering impossibility, not just beauty. The debate got heated enough that the Indian government initially refused to participate in the voting process. But the people spoke. Over 100 million votes were cast, and the Taj Mahal earned its place. Both of these wonders exist for the same reason: love. Both were built by grieving spouses who refused to let death have the final word. But the mausoleum is gone. We have to imagine it. The Taj Mahal, 17 million people visit it every year. You can stand inside it, feel the marble, watch the light change. Round 4 winner, the Taj Mahal. Tied 2-2. We're at the halfway point, and the battle could go either way. But the next 3 rounds will feature revelations that fundamentally change this competition, starting with a wonder that was so massive, so impossible, that when it fell, the ancient world considered it an omen.
Round 5. The giant versus the arena. The Colossus of Rhodes versus the Colosseum. Here's something that's going to surprise you. We don't actually know what the Colossus of Rhodes looked like. Every image you've ever seen, the massive figure straddling the harbor entrance, ships passing between its legs, is historically inaccurate. That design would have been architecturally impossible and would have blocked the harbor during construction. What we do know is this. It was built around 280 BCE to celebrate Rhodes' victory over an invading army. It depicted Helios, the sun god. It stood approximately 108 feet tall, roughly the height of the Statue of Liberty without its pedestal. It was made of bronze plates over an iron framework, and it took 12 years to build. And it stood
for only 56 years. In 226 BCE, an earthquake snapped it at the knees. The Rhodians were offered money to rebuild it, but an oracle warned them against it, saying they had offended Helios. So the Colossus lay broken in the harbor for over 800 years. Ancient tourists came just to see the ruins. The ancient writer Pliny noted that few people could wrap their arms around just one of its fallen thumbs. Eventually, Arab forces conquered Rhodes in 654 CE, and the bronze was sold for scrap. According to one account, it took 900 camels to carry away all the metal. The Colosseum takes a different approach to greatness. Built between 70 and 80 CE in Rome, it wasn't designed to honor a god. It was designed to entertain humans and to demonstrate the absolute power of the Roman Empire. The numbers are staggering. It could seat 50,000 to 80,000 spectators. It had 80 entrances. The Romans could fill the entire arena in 15 minutes and evacuate it in about the same time. Crowd management that modern stadiums still struggle to match. The floor could be flooded for naval battles. Elevators powered by slaves lifted animals and gladiators from underground chambers directly into the arena. A retractable awning system shaded the audience. This was essentially ancient Las Vegas. And over 400,000 people died there, gladiators, prisoners, animals, for entertainment. So here's the philosophical question this round forces us to answer. What makes something a wonder? The Colossus represented aspiration, humanity reaching towards the divine. The Colosseum represented domination, humanity demonstrating power through spectacle and death. One fell after 56 years, the other is still standing after nearly 2,000. But I keep coming back to those 900 camels carrying away the bronze. Something about that image haunts me. A wonder so great that even its corpse was valuable. Round 5 winner, the Colossus of Rhodes. Ancient Wonders lead 3-2. 2 rounds left, and the Ancient Wonders have the advantage. But the next round features the single most controversial comparison in this entire video, because I'm about to compare a temple destroyed by arson to a city carved directly into a cliff face. And what you learn about the arsonist will disgust you.
Round 6. Fire and Stone. The Temple of Artemis versus Petra. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was rebuilt 3 times. The first temple was destroyed by a flood. It was rebuilt larger and more magnificent. The second temple was burned to the ground in 356 BCE by a man named Herostratus. His reason? He wanted to be famous. That's it. He burned one of the greatest achievements in human history for personal fame. The ancient Greeks were so disgusted that they passed a law making it illegal to speak his name. They called it damnatio memoriae, condemnation of memory. The goal was to erase him from history completely. It didn't work. We still know his name 2,400 years later. The third temple was even more spectacular than the second. It measured 450 feet long and 225 feet wide, with 127 columns standing 60 feet high. Ancient writers described it as the most beautiful structure ever built. In 262 CE, the Goths destroyed it during an invasion. This time, it was never rebuilt. Now, let's talk about Petra. If the Temple of Artemis was destroyed by humans, Petra was hidden by nature. The ancient Nabatean city in modern-day Jordan wasn't built on anything. It was carved directly into sandstone cliffs. The city dates back to around 300 BCE and was a major trading hub controlling the incense routes. But here's what makes Petra unlike anything else on this list. To enter the city, you have to walk through a narrow canyon called the Seek,
a passage only about 10 feet wide but over 250 feet tall. For over a kilometer, you walk through this slot canyon with walls towering above you. And then suddenly, the canyon opens up, and you see the treasury, a 130-foot-tall facade carved directly into the rose-red cliff. It wasn't built. It was sculpted from the mountain itself. After the Romans conquered Petra, and after trade routes shifted, the city was abandoned. Western explorers didn't rediscover it until 1812. For over 1,000 years, it existed only in Bedouin legend. This round might be the hardest to judge. The Temple of Artemis was a traditional wonder, a building placed upon the earth, vulnerable to fire and violence. Petra is fused with the earth itself. You cannot burn it. You can only forget it. And forgetting is exactly what the world did. But that forgetting also preserved it. While the Temple of Artemis was dismantled for its materials, Petra remained intact, waiting. Round 6 winner. Petra. Tied 3-3. 1 round left. Ancient wonders and new wonders are perfectly matched. And the final round features something I've been building towards since the beginning of this video. A wonder that represents something neither list fully captures. The truth about human genius itself.
Round 7. The God who sat versus the serpent who descended. The statue of Zeus at Olympia versus Chichen Itza. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was created around 435 BCE by Phidias, the greatest sculptor of the ancient world. It depicted Zeus sitting on a throne, made of ivory and gold. It stood approximately 40 feet tall, so massive that ancient writers joked that if Zeus tried to stand up, he would have burst through the roof of the temple. In his right hand, he held Nike, the goddess of victory. In his left, a scepter topped with an eagle. Ancient visitors described being moved to tears simply standing in its presence. The Roman general Aemilius Paulus, upon seeing it, reportedly said it was the only time he felt he had truly experienced the gods. The statue was eventually moved to Constantinople, where it was destroyed in a fire around 475 CE. No copies survive. We know it only through descriptions and images on coins. Chichen Itza, on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, offers something the Zeus statue could never provide. During the spring and fall equinoxes, as the sun sets, the shadows on the main pyramid, Al Castilla, create the image of a serpent descending the stairs. This is not an accident. The Maya designed this pyramid so precisely that twice a year, for about 45 minutes, a visual illusion brings their serpent god, Kukulkan, to life. The structure is a calendar. Each of the 4 sides has 91 steps. Add them together with the top platform, and you get 365, the number of days in a solar year. The Maya understood astronomy at a level that Europeans wouldn't reach for another 1,000 years, and they encoded that knowledge into stone. Final revelation. So here we are. Final round. The statue of Zeus represented perfection, a single artist's vision of the divine, so beautiful that battle-hardened generals wept before it. Chichen Itza represents precision, an entire civilization's scientific knowledge manifest in architecture. One is about emotion, the other is about mathematics. One required a genius, the other required a culture. And that's when I realized something that changes this entire competition. Round 7 winner. Neither. And both. Here's what I mean. I've been framing this as a competition,
Ancient versus new. Which is more impressive? But that framing is wrong. The ancient wonders and the new wonders aren't opponents. They're a conversation. The ancient wonders show us what humans could achieve when they had nothing but ambition and determination. When they built impossible things with bronze tools and slave labor and pure, defiant will. The new wonders show us what survives. Not just earthquakes and fires and invasions, but also forgetting. The new wonders are structures that endured long enough for us to rediscover them, to appreciate them, to vote for them. The ancient list is about what we could do. The new list is about what lasts. And here's the unsettling truth that kept me up while writing this script. We're still building wonders today. The Burj Khalifa, the International Space Station, the Large Hadron Collider. In 1,000 years, how many of them will still be standing? How many will be remembered? The Colossus lasted 56 years. The Library of Alexandria, which wasn't even on the wonder list, contained humanity's accumulated knowledge, and we lost it all. What are we building right now that we assume will last forever, but won't? What are we taking for granted?
The 7 new wonders were chosen in 2007. That's almost 2 decades ago now. But here's something most people don't know. There are already campaigns to add new structures to the list and remove old ones. What would happen if we held that vote again today? Which wonders would survive the judgment of a new generation, and which would be forgotten? I'll tell you what I think should be added to the list and why the most dangerous structure ever built deserves a place among the wonders in the next video. If you want to see that, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'm Veils of Eternity, and I'll see you in the next one.